Good morning, everyone. We're going to get started.
But I stayed to the end, but I was truly ready to go. And then
Oh, Joe's here too. Good. Just in time. How are you?
Madam Chair?
We waited for you. He is. He's 2 minutes late. He's like me, type A, right? Good morning, everyone. This is the July 13th meeting of the Camino Real Regional Mobility Authority. I'd like to call the meeting to order. It is 9:02 a.m. Mr. Tejas, can you do roll call, please?
Yes, ma'am. Ms. Wilson,
Here.
Mr. Smith,
Here.
Mr.
Here.
Wardy. Mr. Wardy,
Here.
sorry. Ms. Bird,
here.
Mr. Reyes. Here. Ms. Stevens. Here. And Ms. Enriquez. Here. We have a full board.
Great. Are there any public comments?
No, ma'am, none received.
All right, thank you. So we'll move on to agenda item number 2, which are the adoption of the minutes from the CRRMA board meeting of May 11th and the strategic planning session of May 11th. Don't we have July? Okay, you know what? I'm reading the one on here and it's the old one. So adoption of the minutes for the CRRMA board meeting of June 8th, 2022. The agenda up here, I think, is the old one. On mine, yeah.
Oh, yeah, it is.
Mine's a new one.
Okay, well, let me see if I can get the current one. Let me see if I
Mine's
can.
a new one.
No, it's right.
That's
On
right.
mine's.
June 8th.
Yeah, June 8th is the last minute.
Yeah, but I mean, the thing I have was the June agenda for the June meeting, so that's okay. I've got this one. It was the old one. I don't know what happened. There it is, right there. Okay. So adoption of the minutes for the CRRMA board meeting of June 8th, 2022. Are there any discussions of the minutes that were posted and received? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
I second it.
We have a motion and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Item number 3, discussion and action on board resolutions authorizing the execution of the following instruments, which add concrete pads and the installation of shelters to the El Paso County Passenger Shelters and Sidewalks Program. A, change order number 2 with Hawk Construction. B, amendment to work authorization number 1 with AECom Inc. And number C, amendment to work authorization number 35 with Atkins North America Inc.
Okay, Ray Mateus, Executive Director of the Camino Real Regional Mobility Authority. For this first item, 3A, I've got a very brief PowerPoint. If IT could bring that up, and I'll run you through that fairly quickly. Excuse me. So as read into the record, we're talking about the Passenger Shelters and Sidewalks program. As a reminder, this is a program that we've developed with the County of El Paso to support their El Paso County transit system, the rural transit system. The program, as envisioned, pulls in funds from different programs to add shelters and to add sidewalk improvements and that sort of thing to support their program. So what you see before you under item 3A then is a change order, and you'll recognize this PowerPoint. This is the PowerPoint that we normally use for change orders each month. This is the only change order that we have for this particular month. You'll notice normally we have change orders that the executive director has approved by resolution over the prior month. We don't have any of those this month, but we do have one, which is 3A, that requires board action because it is in excess of the $100,000 that's authorized by board resolution. So again, as a reminder, this is the Shelter and Sidewalks program. In Canutillo, we have certain improvements coming in. All of this is part of your backup as well. This particular change order is paying for the installation of 5 shelters. So you may recall we have executed change order number 1 previously, and that was to purchase 5 additional bus shelters for the program. This change order then provides the funding necessary for the construction contractor to do the installation. So that's the concrete pads, the construction and installation of the shelters as well. Total change order cost for this one is $252,000. And as I mentioned, the first one was to purchase the shelters. This one installs them. And so the requested board action would be a motion to approve a board resolution to authorize the executive director to execute change order number 2 with Hawk Construction for this particular program. So that's what you see under item 3A. 3B then is an amendment to work authorization number 1 with AECom, and that's the design firm to provide additional design services during construction while these activities are ongoing. And then item 3C is to retain or extend the work authorization with Atkins to provide oversight for the entire project as they provide oversight services for us as our general engineering consultant team. So subject to your questions, I would recommend approval of these 3 items.
Chair.
Any questions? Yes?
I thought these were part of the original contract. Why are they change orders? I don't understand.
These are additional shelters. So
Oh.
the original contract had a number of shelters that were being placed. We've added some based on some additional funds that the county has acquired.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
I have a question. How many of the original shelters was it? Just for a refresher, I can't
So
remember.
originally there were 4. We're adding
4?
5.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
So there's a total of 9 now?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, great. Any other questions?
Thank you.
Then I'll entertain a motion, please.
Move to approve.
I second it.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Moving on to item number 4, discussion and action on a board resolution authorizing execution of an amendment to the interlocal agreement with El Paso County for the John Hayes Street Extension Project to add funds for required right-of-way acquisitions.
Okay, so this item deals with John Hayes. As you recall, last month I came before you asking for authorization to begin issuing offer letters, and we're close to issuing those for right-of-way acquisitions for this project on behalf of the county. This particular item actually adds funding from the county in the amount of $1 million to the program so that we can actually issue those letters. So that's what you see before you today. I would recommend approval of this item.
Any questions? Entertain a motion.
I make that motion.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Item number 5, discussion and action on board resolutions authorizing the execution of the following instruments, which add design services to the Darrington Roadway Improvement Project, amendment to the interlocal agreement with El Paso County, and B, amendment to the work authorization with Hewitt-Zollers, Inc., authorization number 2 with Hewitt-Zollers, Inc.
Okay, for this item, I've got a graphic to orient you for this particular project. We are talking about Darrington Road. This is another project that we're developing on behalf of and in coordination with the county. I should mention Mr. Alonso couldn't make it today, but he wanted to be here. So to orient you, this is Pelicano Roadway. And when you get to this intersection, this is Berryville and Darrington, and this section here is John Hayes. So what we're doing in this particular item is actually 2 actions. Under item 5A, we've got an amendment to the interlocal with the County of El Paso, adding $500,000. $105,000 will be added for additional design services, and that's what you'll see under 5B. And the remainder of $395,000 will be added for construction activities to come in a future phase. Under item 5B then is a work authorization amendment with Hewitt-Zollers, who's the designer of record for this particular project, adding $102,000 to do design work in this area. So what they're doing is they are actually extending, let's see here, on this one, they're extending a water line in this particular area, and then they're also improving this interchange between Pelicano, Berryville, Darrington, and John Hayes. So that's what we're doing here. So again, $105,000 for additional design activities under 5B, $500,000 of general funds from the county are being added under 5A. Happy to answer any questions, otherwise I would recommend approval.
Are there any questions? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
Okay, we have a motion. We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. Moving on to item 6. Before we move on to item 6, just for my own edification, because we have, I know, several new board members now. Do we give them a complete list of all the projects we've done? Did we do that as part of the retreat? I thought, like from 2008 all the way, so we could see sort of because a lot of these projects are ongoing, and so when we're talking about them, I don't want to assume that everyone's familiar with them, but you've got that, right? Okay, good.
So what we do normally is through orientation, we'll introduce them to the programs and some of the projects, and then you're right, in the planning session, we provided the entire history.
That's
But
right.
I'm happy to meet with you all,
No.
obviously.
I thought we did. I just wanted to make sure from my own recollection that we went back kind of to the beginning. Because
ma'am.
several of us have been here sort of since the beginning or close to it, so we have a lot of history. And these things are, I mean, when you talk about Darrington Road, we kind of know what it is, but to somebody newer than,
Yes,
you know,
ma'am.
just so they have the context of that. Anyway, thanks. Let me see, we're on item number 6. Discussion and action on board resolutions authorizing the execution of the following instruments for the design of the Montwood Drive Extension Project. A, the interlocal agreement with El Paso County. B, work authorization number 3 with MCI Inc. And C, work authorization number 55 with Atkins North America Inc.
All right, this is an interesting one and an exciting one as well. I do have a graphic there up on the screen. This is from one of the attachments as part of item 6A. So this is a new project for us. This is actually being developed in partnership between the county and the city of El Paso. This is an extension of Montwood. To orient you, down here on the left-hand side, Montwood ends roughly at Shreya Street. And then the idea here is to make a connection from Shreya through this undeveloped area up to Rich Beam, so that Montwood will continue on. This has been in discussions for many, many years, and it's an exciting development that the city and the county have come to loose terms of agreement on how to do this. The county has agreed to pay for the design activities, and they're doing that through the RMA. The city then is looking for construction funds for the development of this project once we get to that point. So then what you see under item 6A is an interlocal agreement providing $1.7 million from the county to the RMA. We'll use that to complete the design activities. Under item 6B, Moreno Cardenas, a local engineering firm, will provide the design services for just about $1.5 million to the RMA. And under 6C, as you know, Atkins is our general engineering consultant team. They will provide oversight for design activities in the amount of just over $155,000. So that's what we're doing here. Very exciting project. Happy to answer any questions, but would recommend approval of this item as well.
How long is the road?
Do you know how long? 1.2 miles.
And it's 1.7 to design it? 1.7 million to design it?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
I have
Oh, I'm sorry.
Explain the coordination or relationship between the county, the RMA, and the city. Who's doing what to whom?
We're all doing it together, right? So I'll mention the reason why this one I think has been difficult is that going back to the graphic, this area here is within the city limits. This area here is within the county, and I believe the city limits pick up again over here. So the county is doing the design within their currently owned parcel, or I shouldn't say that they own them. They don't own them yet. Those are all privately held, but this is within the jurisdiction of the county. At some point, that will flip over to ownership by the city through annexation, I believe. I believe that's the intention. But again, in terms of who's doing what, the county has agreed to do the design work using the RMA to handle that. And then once those design plans are ready to move into construction, the city of El Paso is supposed to provide construction funds for those activities. Now we've obviously talked to the city about handling the construction activities as well, since we'll be handling the design, but that'll be dealt with later.
But that's not been agreed to at this point.
Not yet. I should mention too, in reference to Mr. Wardy's comment, All of these numbers and any of the projects that we're involved in with the county have been reviewed and approved by the county.
Now, that property, is it PSB property or privately owned property?
Privately owned. I'd mentioned Representative Salcido has been working with a number of these property owners as well to make those potential donations and that sort of thing. But again, that's on the city side. The design side doesn't require ownership to create the design. That would be in a later.
What do you mean,
phase.
donations for the right-of-way? Is that
Correct. That's
Well,
what they're
it'll give
talking
you-
about.
it'll-
But again, it's
The
it's
design
early.
will tell you what right-of-way you're going to need and what parcels will be affected, so.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
It's probably a,
Very simple question, but when you're figuring out who's going to give part of the land or if they're gonna purchase it, are you just purchasing the place where the road is actually gonna be and then someone is still gonna continue to own the outside, or how does that work? I just wonder.
Sure, it's a good question, actually. And the answer is it depends. So when you do a purchase, and ultimately sometimes it turns into a taking, right, eminent domain, that sort of thing. What you do is you calculate the amount, the remainder amount, and if that land is still usable, then you would just take the portion that you need. But sometimes a purchase will require the entire parcel because you'll leave them with such a small remainder that it's not usable. So that's part of the process that we're actually involved in with the John Hayes project, where we're acquiring property on behalf of the county. We're looking at the remainders and making sure that those remainders are still usable.
And do you already have an idea if it's gonna be in that particular format, or is that just something you all write to show us? That's what I wonder.
Well-
Because it seems like there's already, like, this is kind of the road, what it's gonna look like. And I just wondered how that comes about.
So this graphic that you saw is literally an engineer loosely putting a pen to paper, that kind of a thing.
Okay.
In the design phase, that's where you go through the environmental activities and all the other sorts of things that will actually result in an alignment. So we're not there yet, but once you get to the alignment, that's what then allows you to move on to the acquisition phase.
And one other question is that.
Sorry. Thank you. Is that area zoned currently for commercial, residential, anything, or is it
I couldn't tell you that, but I can get you that answer.
just curious?
Mhm.
So, okay.
I mean, just looking at the land, my assumption is that the road will actually then provide that track connectivity and make the property much more valuable and give it greater opportunity to develop, because Mountainwood's an arterial, right?
I'm not sure.
Is
Yes,
it,
ma'am.
not, maybe it's a minor arterial, but I think it's an arterial, is it not?
Do you know
Or is it a connector? It is
An
an arterial,
arterial,
yeah.
yes, ma'am.
So there would be opportunity, I think, for a fairly substantial development of the land around it that otherwise would not happen, or the property owners would have to develop the road themselves at their
Yes, ma'am.
expense, so, okay. Any other questions? If not, then I'll entertain a motion.
So
I second it.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Moving on to item 7, discussion and action on a board resolution authorizing the execution of amendment to work authorization number 4 with Dannenbaum Engineering Company, El Paso LLC, to add scope to the Rojas Drive Improvements Phase 2 project.
I've got one more graphic for you for this particular item, the Rojas project. So to orient you, this is Rojas on the far east side. This is East Lake here. And this is heading east. So East Lake all the way to Horizon Boulevard are the project limits for this particular project. This is another project that we are developing in conjunction with, or in coordination with the county. We're doing various roadway improvements on this one, including safety improvements. This is near the area of the new Amazon facility. So as you can imagine, there's concerns about traffic upticks and types of vehicles using the roadway. So one of the first things we did under this project was a study to determine what this roadway could handle in terms of types of vehicles and whether or not big trucks should be allowed on the roadway, that sort of thing. Project also includes illumination and signage and those other sorts of improvements. What we're doing here under this particular work authorization amendment is actually adding scope of Emerald Pass and No Nap Road. So those are the two roadways in here. So we're going into these roadways to further the study for potential improvements. We're adding $21,000 to the Dannenbaum work authorization for this particular amendment. So subject to your questions, I would recommend approval of this one. And as with all of the other county projects, the county has reviewed and approved the funding amounts and the scopes.
Any questions? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
We have a motion and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Okay, item number 8, discussion and action on a board resolution authorizing the execution of an amendment to work authorization number 2 with Moreno Cardenas, Inc., to add scope to the Tom Mays Drive Extension Project.
Okay, this one, I don't have any graphics for you. I tried to pull up a map, but it was really kind of difficult to read. This one, as a reminder, is for Tom Mays, another project that we're developing with the county. Tom Mays is on the west side, heading roughly from the Westway area, heading south towards Wrestler. What we're doing with this one is adding just under $40,000 to the Moreno Cardenas work authorization to add shared use paths and to extend the 2-lane extension from Spartan Drive over to Tom Mays. So we're adding scope as requested by El Paso County. Numbers, amounts, and scope has been reviewed and approved by the county, so I would recommend approval of this item as well.
Are there any questions? I'll entertain a motion then.
So moved.
I second it.
We have a motion and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. Number 9, discussion and action on board resolutions authorizing the execution of the following instruments which add design activities for the Pelicano Improvement Project. Amendment to work authorization number 3 with CEA, and B, amendment to work authorization number 27.8 with Adkins North America, Inc.
Okay, this one relates to the discussion that we had last month on Pelicano. As you know, the Pelicano construction timeline has been extended. So that requires us to extend the agreements that we have with our design firm of record, which is under item 9A with CEA, and also the oversight entity, which is Atkins, of course, is our general engineering consultant team. So what you see then before you under item 9A is an extension. We're adding 7 months of activities, which hopefully we can wrap this project up before then. We're adding $102,000 for the designer of record, and we're adding another $596,000 to Atkins for those additional 7 months for construction oversight. Happy to answer any questions, but I would recommend approval of this item as well. As mentioned with all of the other items, the County of El Paso has reviewed and approved these numbers and scope additions.
I have a question.
Okay.
You said that we're adding 7 months. Who's adding them? I mean,
well-
why we're adding them?
Why are we adding them? It relates to the construction delay issues that we talked about
At the last
at the
meeting.
last.
Okay,
at the
I
last
just wanted
month's
to make
board
sure it was
meeting.
the same reasons.
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am. Yeah. So the current construction schedule adds another 7 months from the contractor. So that's why we're
So you're
adding-
extending these as part of that, right?
Yes, ma'am. Exactly.
Thank you.
Any other questions? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
I make the motion.
Second.
We have a motion and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. That ends action items for the meeting. So number 10 is the presentation and discussion of the following third quarter reports for fiscal year 2022, interim financial statements, investment report, and bike share.
Yes, ma'am. Robert Studer, Director of Finance for the record. The Finance Committee met yesterday for a little over 90 minutes and in fact delayed the start of the Planning Committee as we spent so much time with these items. And has been our past practice is the board doesn't spend time reviewing it as the Finance Committee dives deep into this. So no action. unless the committee
Mr.
has
Ward, do
any
you have any
comments.
comments?
No, we spent a lot of time on these issues yesterday, and I think the board should have confidence that we asked the necessary questions, and Mr. Studer reported, as always, very succinctly. So I think we're in good shape on those. And we did have some ideas and a little brainstorming for the bike share project. My concern is the chair of the finance committee. This is a great program, but unless we change the paradigm for the Sun Cycle Bicycle program, I don't think financially it will survive. So we came up with some ideas yesterday that bear looking into on expanding the program, maybe to a Scarcity Park, maybe to some other areas where we can get a different type of ridership, so we can generate some additional capital. The bigger footprint we have, the more visibility we have for types of sponsorship. So I think that Robert's got his marching orders and will report to the board on his findings in that area. Other than that, I think it's pretty routine, and they're doing a really good job on the financial statements and on the investment report.
Okay, great, thank you. No action required? Okay. Then we'll move to item 11, which are the staff reports. A is the Finance Committee meeting update, which I think we've probably already covered. B, Planning Committee meeting update. Colonel Smith, do you want to take the lead on that?
Yes, we had an amazing planning committee meeting yesterday, and all of the board members were present, along with Mr. Wardy was there. And you want to cover, Raymond, the proposal. One of the tasks that the planning committee had was to put meat to some of the projects that we identified in the strategic plan that we came up with, and we in fact did that and came up with a priority list and some recommendations of going forward from there. So Raymond, if you would present those to us, please.
Certainly. The committee came up with 4 specific areas to focus in on. The first one deals with a commercial relief route from the UP facility in Strauss, New Mexico, and exploring partnerships with New Mexico DOT that the RMA can be involved in. Another one was the development of the Borderland Expressway project, and really pushing this one with TxDOT to see if we can't develop an approach for grant application submittals. Another one is exploring partnerships with TxDOT on the development of the future Border Highway East project, which runs along the border roughly from Loop 375, tracing the border heading east. And then the last one is pursuing the development of a truck parking project with TxDOT as well. So those were the 4 additional items that were added. So I'll redline and work with the planning committee and finalize that, and then we'll bring that to the board at the next board meeting.
Okay, terrific. Thank you.
So what we'd like to do is to, in fact, put meat to these, especially for all of the grant writing issues, so that we can identify funds to fund the writing for the grant applications and to be timely in what we present, so that we're not scrambling at the last minute to meet deadlines for these grants. Because as we discussed, the money is out there, and I think we've got the talent with our engineering consultants and our staff to really put together great grant applications. And then the challenge will be for us as a board to bring on all the stakeholders and get them agreeing on a course of action for all of these activities. And to do that, we probably need, like we have the coalition for the Borderland Expressway, which is a meeting as required, sometimes monthly when activities are strong. That brings all the stakeholders together and comes to a agreement on a course of action and what we're doing. And I think that for these other projects, they're sizable as well. And so we'll probably be asking the board to look at taking the lead to form some coalitions of the stakeholders to do the necessary planning and everything to submit those grants. So we're going to have to get roller skates for Raymond to keep up with these, because these are all four of these are big, and they're going to be pretty extensive. So we're going to need to engage our engineering consultants, and we're going to have to look for sources of funds to fund these engineering consultants to put together these grant applications.
Okay, that sounds good. It's exciting. And I do think at some point, once you have this fleshed out, it would be worthwhile to somehow, as a board or otherwise, engage with some of the advocacy, like the Greater Chamber has a transportation committee, I
Exactly.
think, and even our state and federal delegation.
Exactly.
So we can get them engaged as well, because they'll be a good resource to help us,
Yeah.
particularly if we're pursuing grants, to advocate. So,
Exactly. So
all right. Well, good. Thank you. Good work. And then anything else on planning?
Any planning committee members want to add anything?
And I apologize if you mentioned it. Did you mention the long-term parking trucking?
Yes, ma'am.
You did?
Yeah.
Okay, sorry. I was listening to the other. Thank you.
And I might add, that's something that is really neat that we could jump on very quickly. And so Mr. Warda gave us some outstanding input as to the importance and the abilities of projects that are done elsewhere and how we could go about doing that. So what we need to do is find some funding to turn loose our engineering consultants and put together some coalitions of the stakeholders to in fact make that happen.
Okay. Perfect.
Anything else, Silver? Okay.
All right, thank you so much. And then the last item is the August board meeting.
Yes, ma'am. So I just wanted to make mention to the board, the August 10th board meeting will be a little bit unique. We're going to have Robert managing that particular project, or that particular meeting. The idea is to do some cross-training, make sure that if something were to happen to me, Robert can pick up and take over very easily. So we're going to be doing some cross-training. So
That's
Robert will run
perfect.
the show next
Sharpen
month.
your knives.
So that's all that we
Are
have.
you
for
training him on the finances?
No.
Not yet. If I could just jump back to A on this item, the Finance Committee will be meeting again before the August board meeting to review the budget, and then we'll present the budget at that board meeting.
Okay, that's great.
So-
Are you going to look at additional resources for some of this activity as
So-
part of the budget? I hope.
So this is baptism under fire for Robert to.
He's doing
It doesn't
everything.
have to be under fire. It's up to
Holy
you.
cow. This is, all right. I can't wait. What, the date on that is what?
August 10th.
10th.
10th?
Yes, sir.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you. Okay, item number 12 is discussion and action on board resolutions for the following items as they relate to the employment of the executive director in order to A, approve the annual performance evaluation and authorize the RMA chair to communicate the results of the evaluation to the city of El Paso and take other actions as necessary, and B, approve the recommended terms for renewal of the employment agreement between the CRRMA's executive director and the city of El Paso, and authorize the RMA to continue to reimburse the city of El Paso for the employment of the executive director. I think Mr. Gordon is not here, but he's available by phone. I would like to make a motion to move into executive session to discuss contract and personnel matters, but I think, is he on the phone now to read the language that
I
we
just got an
need?
email that he got disconnected, but it sounds like he's trying to rejoin, so if IT could let him
There he
into the
is.
meeting.
I see him. I can see him.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm back. I went to turn the volume up and hit the off switch. So, hopefully you can hear me.
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay.
And we can see you all.
And we can see you as well on the Teams. We want to go into executive session, Norman.
Right, so you need a motion to go into executive session, and I will recite what you're going to be doing.
Okay, thank you.
Do
So
we
you need a motion to go in executive session to discuss items 12A and 12B, which is discussion and action on board resolutions for the following items as they relate to the employment of the executive director in order to A, approve the annual performance evaluation and authorize the CRRMA chair to communicate the results of the evaluation to the city of El Paso and to take other actions as necessary, and B, approve recommended terms for renewal of the employment agreement between the CRRMA's executive director and the city of El Paso, and to authorize the CRRMA to continue to reimburse the city for the employment of the executive director. The retirement into executive session is accomplished pursuant to Texas Government Code sections 551.071 consultation with attorney and 551.074 personnel matters.
So
I'll make
Matt-
that motion.
I'll second it.
So we have a motion and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, we will convene in executive session. The time is 9:38 a.m. And are we going into this little room? Okay. And so,
Yeah, there's another Teams invite for that, so I will get on that one, and then the IT or Robert will help you join that, so that I can be there.
All right, thank you, everyone. I'll have a motion to come out of executive session, please.
I second.
And we have a motion to return to open session and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? The time is 10:05 a.m. Going back to item number 12, discussion and action on board resolutions for the following items as they relate to the employment of the executive director. One is the annual performance evaluation, and two is renewal of the employment agreement. There is no action to be taken at today's meeting. These motions will be tabled to the August meeting and posted with final documents. Correct?
Correct.
Is that sufficient for the record?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. There is no other business, so I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
I second it.
We have a motion and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you all very much. Great meeting. Good work.
Okay, 10:06 for the record.